Hello, welcome back to 3D Drawing for Your Model Railway. In the last episode we got to this point here, which is about the point where it starts to diverge in the different directions for the different types of wagons that you're going to be producing. So we're going to then start now to create those divergences. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a copy of this body. So if I'm going to go move copy, create a copy, and I'm going to rotate around, I'm just going to move the copy off to one side. And then I'm moving it to 60 millimeters. It doesn't matter how far you move, I'm just moving it out of the way. So we've got two versions here. Okay, and then we're going to be able to draw on one and then potentially copy over to the other the parts that are common between them. So I'm going to turn that copy off. We'll keep it here so we know we've got it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to initially start by drawing the cradles. So I'm going to mirror the body over, because I'm trying to draw the middle cradle first. So if we just do mirror and then select bodies, select the body that we're copying, and the mirror plane is going to be the inside face. And click on OK. So we've now got the full length wagon all on one side. So as I said, we're doing I'm going to be doing the version with 3 cradles to start with. I'm going to find a picture that's looking above that we can use to start adding the details. So if we look at the floor initially, it looks like the hole in the floor actually starts beyond the upright here and then slightly beyond on the other side. So if we find one a little bit more side on if possible. Look like we've got one that's that side on, unfortunately. So we're just going to have to sort of use our best guesses and estimate where we think that slot in the floor is going to be. But I think, as I said, I think it's going to be roughly where those 2 uprights are. This is the 2 version wagon, so we can't really use that. None of these are particularly side on, unfortunately. So yeah, as I say, we're going to create the slot, and it's going to be on those two uprights that I've just mentioned. So if we look at it, the middle one, and then the ones either side of those. So there's the midpoint, obviously. Create a sketch on the top surface, and I'm just going to use a rectangle to draw across like this. Now, if we look, obviously we don't want to come all the way to the edge, we need a bit of a gap on the outside. So we'll create that gap there like that. I'm going to find the distance there. I'm just going to give it a 1 millimeter thickness. We'll rotate this round slightly so we can see side on. We know this is our midpoint. So as I said, I wanted these ever so slightly to the side of those 2. So if we can project that upright and that upright, we can then use those points to reference off the distance. So I'm going to define the distance there. I'm going to do 0.5 millimeters, and the same there as 0.5 millimeters. So we know we've got that offset either side. We can then extrude this, just rotate this over, and we're going all the way through the floor to the bottom side of it. Okay. How's that look? Oh, actually, there we go, got an issue there. Okay, so let's go back in that sketch. What's happened there is it's taken out the side here, so we need to add a little bit of thickness there. Edit that, which is this distance here. So that's going to be 2 millimeters. Double click on that. Why can't you do that? It could be because of these constraints here. Well, they shouldn't be constraining there like that. Let's try doing that again. Yeah. Okay, let's redefine. It was those constraining for some reason. So we can constrain those distance of 0.5 again. click on OK, and that'll drill through the floor. Actually, we've got a little bit of gap here, and I'd rather not have one there, so I'm just going to check that distance. It's 0.3 millimeters. So let's just go back into that. Go back into the sketch. I'm just going to edit that and take off 3 millimeters. So that's going to be 1.7. And then that hole coming through will be flush all the way down there. Good. So now we've got that hole for the initial first cradle. The next thing we need to do is look at the ones either side. Now these could be mirrored across that midpoint. So again, we've just got to work out roughly where they are to be able to copy them. So looking here, we've got this upright here that looks like it's pretty much level with, and then 2 over, and it's slightly on the inside of it maybe. Maybe flush with them. It's very difficult to see with these pictures being slightly side on. Definitely flush up against the end looking at that one. Okay, this looks like it's slightly on the inside of this frame here. That plugin's no use because it's 2. Okay, so we shall do a sketch on the top surface. Again, just using the rectangle tool, drawing the rectangle out, and I'm going to horizontally constrain those 2 corners like that. If we rotate this over, and I'm now going to project. Where else have we said? It's going to be on the inside of it. So I'm going to project that inside upright and the inside of that upright there. And click on OK. Okay, I want to horizontally vertically constrain those 2. And this one I want to be inside of it. Oops. I don't want it at an angle. Okay, go the other way, will you? Okay, there we go. Let's go to 0.5 millimeters on that one. And again, we can extrude this through to the bottom surface. Yep, happy with that. So we can now mirror that feature to the other end of the wagon using our mid-planes. So if we find a construction plane, plane 1 is our midpoint. So if we mirror that feature, so we're selecting the hole on this end that we just cut. Mirror plane's already selected. Click on OK. We should now have one on this end. Excellent. So we've got our 3 holes now. So the next one I'm going to draw is the middle cradle here. If we find a nice picture that looks at the cradle, they're all pretty much the same. These tall ones, whether it be on a 2 version or a 3 version, they all look pretty much the same. It's 2 I-beams, a plate coming up at an angle in the middle of the I-beam, and then one coming across. And as I say, they all look much the same on those 3 versions. Okay. So we're going to draw those I-beams on now for the one on the midpoint. So we're going to draw on this inside surface. Okay. And we know that this green line's not our midpoint, so we won't worry about that too much. So I'm going to draw a rectangle to start with. Go to the edge. Yes, it does. So I'm going to draw that constraint to the edges actually. Snap that there. And then we can snap that to that. Undo that, we don't want that. That's coincidence. We want to snap that to that edge there. Thickness. How thick are they? my roller wheel not working properly. Okay, so it's looking maybe 6 to 8 inches wide. So we're going to find the width. Define that as 1.2 millimeters, I think. And then the distance from there to the end, I'm going to do is 4.5 millimeters. Height-wise, spin this round. We don't know how accurate that drawing is, but I'm going to just sort of say that it's probably not far off with that height. So I'm going to drag that up to the height there, so we're up to 6 millimeters. Then I'm going to cut out the I-beam on it using a rectangle tool. I could have done this before I extruded it. It doesn't really matter what order you do it in, to be fair. Okay, let's define distance from the edge there. 0.3 millimeters. So 0.3. And we can vertically constrain that to that, that to that, so that this side's now the same height. And then we can do the same, constraining the distance. Constrain the distance across. I'm going to do 0.4 millimeters. And the same on that one. 0.4. Okay. And then we can just cut these two, extrude them down to that base surface. There's our I-beam shape. Okay, and then what we can do is mirror that across. In fact, if we don't do that, what we'll do is we'll draw the diagonal on first. So we'll do an offset plane from that face. And we want to, actually, the easiest way to do that actually would be do it mid-plane. We'll do between that surface and that surface. Now we know that's in the middle. Okay, we can draw on that face, and if we look at the picture, we're just looking to have this diagonal plate here. So it comes from maybe 6 inches down from the top. Looking at that, it looks like it comes across to the plate, the upright. I'm going to go back to that side on view there. Yeah, it's just slightly beyond that plate, although that is a 2 version, not a 3. Looking at that. Okay, yeah. Nothing really there in the middle to sort of line up with, unfortunately. So we'll just draw. We might have to project that surface there. Select that face to project. And you can draw a line that goes, snaps to that surface and comes down at an angle. It won't project, it won't snap to that, so I'm going to have to just use a constraint to snap down. Height, so I'm going for about 6 inches down there. And then let's put an angle in there. Let's go for 50. It comes up, yeah, it does come up too far. Looking at that compared to the picture, we're only going to come to sort of halfway up that diagonal. So let's change that. Let's go 35. Oh, no, go the other way. 65. So yeah, I think that looks a bit better. It comes to sort of a place I think I'm happier with it. So you have to then close this off. So we'll just draw that line across the bottom, so that becomes a closed surface. I can select it, extrude, and rotate it round to the top so you can see where we're extruding. And we're going to do symmetrical because we want to come out both sides. So 0.2 will give us a total of 0.4. I'm actually going to go from 0.25 to give some 0.5 width. Okay, so we've got that. We're now going to mirror that across. So we're going to select that plate, the extrusion and the upright. Why's the mirror gone off? We select that's a mirror. Those three features, mirror plane, and we want plane number 1 is on the plane. Okay, make sure nothing's copied over by mistake. No, that looks okay to me. And then we need the bracing to go across. So looking at the bracing, what you can see is there's a solid beam and then this bar sort of sits in. Now I'm tempted to actually just make a U shape, so the bar that goes across I can use plastic microstrip. The reason for that is just because I want to give a, if you try and print this, it might have a tendency to sag, so you put supports in there and then you'd end up with scarring, whereas it's just as easy just to use a small piece of brass or plastic strip to go across, and then we could also do mounting either just the empty rod or mounting the cable drum on there as well. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other there really. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle really that goes between the two. So we go all the way to the front face. Now it's slightly recessed. So we shall be drawing on, let's draw on the inside surface of the I-beam there and then slice across. I'm going to snap that inside surface and draw a rectangle, and then I'm going to constrain that corner to really snap that edge. No, it won't, I'm going to have to project. Now we'll constrain that to there. No, it won't. That's probably because the slice is on. Go back into the sketch. There you go. Let's put the slice back on now. Okay, so how far down? So the bottom edge actually looks okay. I'm just going to drag this top edge down slightly. And then we'll define. So the width is automatically defining itself. The height. And then the height from the top down. So we're going to go, let's do 1.5 on that. And lower one. 1.1. Okay, now we've got the hole here. Just select these three faces. And I'm going to extrude that to the other side. And it will join. And then on the inside surface, I'm just going to create like a hollow here. So I'm going to create a sketch on that surface there. I'm going to use the circle tool, snap to the midpoint, and I'm just going to drag it out, so maybe 1.5 millimeters. And then I can select that lower half of the circle, and then just do an extrusion cut into there, maybe 0.65. And then, as I say, you can rest the microstrip or brass rod on there. It's got something on the end to stop it sliding about. I think that looks okay for that. Yeah, happy with that. So the next thing I'm going to do is create the lower of the three cradles here, and I'm going to do a slight little cheat for this actually. I'm going to create an offset plane. I'm going to come from the top of the cradle we just drawn. I'm going to bring that down that height, I think. Maybe a little bit less actually, maybe 3.5. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I say, is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to split the body, selecting this base model here, splitting tool being that offset plane. Click on OK, and then I've got a separate body here, and I can do a move copy, create a copy of it, and then move that copy across. So let's try and get that lined up in the middle of there. And 2.5, I think. Yep, touching there. Turn that plane off. If we can combine these two bodies back again, so that one and the tool body, combine that one and body 29. So this is all back to 1, but this is a separate piece. So now we can just sort of make sure we've got this where we should be. So I'm going to measure from, let's spin this round, from that edge to that point there, so 7.866. It's got to come back towards me slightly. So move copy, go in that direction, go 0.1. Measure that again. Should have gone this way. Undo that move. And move that way. That's 8 mil there pretty much. Oh, that's in the faces, that's why. Bodies. Something's not right there. Let's try this from the corner. 3.2. Okay, from that corner to there. 3.8. So it's got to go 1.4. So 0.07. 0.07. 3.19 there now. Okay, so that's 3.1, so it's definitely only 0.04. should be equal 3.15. There we go, finally got that. So that's now centered on there, and we can now mirror that body position. So if we do create mirror, select bodies, that's selecting that one, and if we find plane one which is our midpoint, we'll then get it on the other end as well. So we've now got all three of our spindles there, or cradles, and we can just combine those with the top there. So in body 3 and then the 2 cradles either side. So we've now got our 3 spindles, drawn cradles selected. Okay, so I hope everyone's enjoyed that and has been able to copy along. You should also then have something similar to this. The next lesson, what we're going to do, or next video we're going to do, is start to create the handrails on this side before we start to then do some of the divergence or the things that are different between the 2 threes here. So we've got the different handrails and the flooring on the end here, which will be different. If you've enjoyed this, please make sure you like and subscribe to be notified when the next episode goes up. Thanks for watching.